Hey guys, so this video is a little late because last week's schedule got thrown off a lot because of the Pokemon video that I uploaded. So yeah, this is a couple days late, but I think we're just gonna switch to Friday morning uploads, I think, from now on. But anyway, I was gonna originally make another Magic the Gathering altering video, altering an Izzet Signet for my EDH deck. But I messed up, and I messed up a lot, and I ended up coming out with a really bad alter. So instead, I'm going to switch this video up. Instead of showing you an alter that I created, I'm going to give you a list of all of the mistakes that I did altering this card as like a warning and a lesson to teach you guys to not repeat the same mistakes that I'm making right now. I think it's a total of 6 or 7 mistakes that I made throughout, and I'm going to be telling you guys along the way what I should have done differently that I didn't do during this whole video, and I hope you guys learned something. If you like the video, just like and subscribe please, and share it with your friends. See if anybody else wants to watch this train wreck of a Magic the Gathering altar. Okay, so right now I haven't messed up anything yet. I kind of just put in the base coat, but as you can see, my head popped out because I placed the camera way too high up looking down, and I didn't notice that whenever I painted the base coat, I was also painting... I was painting the base coat, but I was also moving my head underneath the camera, and the camera kept picking up the corner of my head and I kept obstructing the view. So yeah, don't do that. Mistake number 1. Position your camera in such a way whereas you don't appear on the camera other than, your fingers and your hands. For an altering video, the focus should always be on the piece of art itself and not on you. But other than this, I honestly probably should have gone with a darker base coat than this, simply because it was working with browns and yellows and dark reds, so I probably should have gone with a darker one. I did fix it up with the toothpick though, which was a good thing. I think after this I move on to just draw. Here, I fixed the camera at this point, and here was the second mistake. The tannish yellow that I'm using right now to color the Signet's metal piece, the part that's covering the red, isn't the right color. It's not. I tried very hard to get the right shade of color, but I guess I got frustrated. I don't know what I was doing. I couldn't get the metallic yellow-orange color that should have gone with the Signet, and instead I went with a very faded yellow tan. Here though, I did color match correctly with the dark red for the little handle part. That part I did good. But normally when you do a Magic the Gathering altar, you want to get the color to match correctly, because the whole point of an altar extension, at least for a Magic the Gathering card, is to extend the artwork that was already there and make it so that it extends either past covering the words or past the border. But you want to make it so that your added on paint seems to blend into the paint that's already there, as if you were completing or extending the artwork that was there. Right? So the color itself has to be the most important part of the entire process, to get the right color to make it as close to the original as you possibly can. For this though, I at least colored the red, metallic dark red correctly. I did mess up here a little bit with the shading, but overall that color was pretty okay by the end of it. I managed to touch it up a bit. I did water down the tan paint a little bit too much, and it was too faint. Although you're supposed to water down your acrylics when you're altering, I watered this one too much here, and you could still see the base coat underneath it, which gives you a hint that it wasn't the right color. So I went over it again with way too many coats of paint, and this is my next mistake. I picked up too much paint with my paintbrush, trying to cover up the thinly watered down tan color, and because of that I ended up with these random like brush stroke marks throughout the piece. And here I messed up again trying to shade. Instead of using a darker tan to shade the highlights, the shading part of the metal, I instead went with a watered down black that I was going to blend into the tan. That doesn't work. I don't know what I was thinking when I did this. That never works. You end up with just a very ugly black yellow slob there. And I made the same mistake again, trying to use a watered down white instead of just blending the natural tan on the palette and then using that to paint over. I tried doing that here, but it was a bit too late. Now it just looks like there's a random black glob going through the metal part. And you can see right now that the direction in which the black is facing didn't line up correctly, so I just gave up and just covered the entire thing in tan again. But it looks really, you could look at it, it looks really bad. That little corner right there of dark red that I just painted, it's the only part of all this that was not perfectly, but it's very well color match. You can see right now, after I turn it a bit of times, on the right side of the card, that red that has the lightning bolt on it right now, you can't notice where my paint starts and the original paint ends. And that is the whole point of a Magic Gathering altar. You're supposed to not be able to tell where your paint starts. You can very clearly see where my paint starts with the metal portion that I messed up really badly. Blue was easy, that was just a very light blue. It was the same color as the background. It wasn't that hard to get that color match correctly. Here is the next biggest mistake, which is when you start doing the actual finer details of an altar. Like, this would be like, in this case, the engravings or the writing on a wall, the bricks, paper, fabric. You always want to sketch these out beforehand, either in a little post-it note on the side, but you should never eyeball these details because you're never going to alter a Magic the Gathering card and have the piece be flat and static so that you can perfectly see where everything is and everything should be symmetrical. You have to sketch it out on the side with either a printed out copy of the piece or another card entirely. You don't eyeball it because then you end up with very wrong looking art. Like right now, the little curve that goes into the middle of the signet, I drew it, well, I tried to draw it so that it would be symmetrical on both sides. That doesn't work because the actual signet itself is rotated in the original art. It messes with the proportions of the left side and the right side, and it doesn't look good. I made the left side's fine, but as I'm coming into the right side, I made the right side way too narrow, and I pushed it too much to the center. It should have been further out because I'm looking at it from further away. That piece is closer to us, so it would be bigger than the part that's further away from us. I then made another mistake, which is when you're doing thin lines like this, you want to do it in long strokes so that the black line looks like a very thin direct line. You don't just kind of like chicken scratch it. You don't do that because then you end up with these lines where it's not a straight line. You can obviously see where I picked up the brush and put it back down again, and it makes it look very rushed, poorly made, and it doesn't look like a black line like an etch or an engraving would look like. I at least got the colors right with this, but as you can see right here, when I add these red squares, you can tell like there's nothing symmetrical about that. The left side is veering way too much to the right. If I were to right now, I'm going to try to do this. If I overlay a line, like a straight line, and angle it in such a way whereas it follows the center point of the signet, you'll notice how far off I was from correctly positioning that engraving. More on that, I eyeballed the bottom as well, so I really didn't have any knowledge on how to make it look realistic and make it look good. And overall, this is when I just was completely fed up with this piece and just wanted to make it look good. Here I tried adding a couple squares to make it even out a bit, but then I realized it wouldn't work because if I skip from red to tan, it would just end up with one big red blotch in the middle. And at that point I committed to it. I painted the black line. I couldn't really erase that, so I had to go with it. Here I added a little bit of red squares just to give it a little more texture so it doesn't just look like a flat tan, even though those squares are probably not on the other end, if you can see it. And I didn't notice it until after I was done with the piece and I realized it looks wrong. Because if you follow that same line over, across, into the other side, there are no red squares. The red squares only appear on the bottom portion of the little engraving. Now, here we move on to the only thing that should be free-handed, the only thing that should be eyeballed. The only details that you eyeball on an altar are things that are naturally flowing or naturally random. This is stuff like the wind, clouds, in this case lightning bolts, leaves, water, anything that naturally flows that doesn't follow a strict, that don't follow really the laws of symmetry or anything like that. Like the engraving, it's static. It will always be that way, no matter which way you draw the signet, though that engraving will be the same shape. But with lightning bolts and waves and wind, you can kind of just go with it, and if you try to make it look symmetrical, it doesn't look natural and it looks very poorly made. These lightning bolts, I kind of just went with random angular lines as you would any lightning bolts, and it looks fine. It actually looks like something that would be on the actual artwork. The blues are very easy to match. It was just a light blue, the sky blue that I used previously, with a little bit of white mixed in. Lightning bolts are fine. I like the way those turned out. That is the only good thing that I did in this whole piece. Another mistake that I did that you probably should always avoid is not already planning out what you're going to paint beforehand. You saw before how I drew out a slight sketch of how I wanted the piece to look like, but I didn't draw any of the details. I didn't draw any of the lightning bolts. I didn't draw what the bottom piece of the red was supposed to be. I didn't draw the shading lines. I didn't shade at all. As you can see here, there is no shading. The glare that's supposed to be placed on the metallic part, it's not there. There's just no glare. It's just one solid color, and that doesn't look good. It doesn't follow the original art piece. Now, if the original artwork of the card was a very static, flat colored, like I believe some of the older Magic cards used to look like that, it was just like a flat color, there wasn't really depth to them or shading or metallic. Well, there was shading, but there wasn't a metallic textures or anything like that. In this case, there are, so you have to match it if you want to match the gathering altar. And I didn't, and it doesn't look good. It looks like a very poorly made altar because that's what it is. It's very poorly made. So yeah, just I hope you guys don't make these mistakes. So as long as you try to avoid them, remember, water down your paints correctly. Plan out what you're going to paint. Don't eyeball the details. Always measure them or sketch them out on a separate piece. Position the camera so that your face doesn't show up when you start recording, and color match. Practice your color matching. The best way to do this is to simply practice. Just pick a random color on a card and then just mix paints on the side, that you end up learning how to mix colors in such a way whereas you match the colors exactly. If you look at the other Ultra video I made, which was the Gilded Lotus, where I couldn't get the color of the water correctly, I just switched it to another textured water style. That works because it's at least consistent with the overall style of the card. In this case, doing that wouldn't have worked. So here, hold the card up. It's not good. If you compare it to the, well, at least I put the painting tape in the back. If you compare it to the original artwork, it's not good. I didn't improve it. The whole point of a Magic the Gathering altar is to improve the aesthetics of the card. And I didn't. I messed it up. Well, and that was an entire train wreck. I hope you guys learned something from this, as I obviously did. Maybe I'll try to give Izzet Signet another altar some other time when I get over this. But I hope you guys liked the video. See you next time.